Dan Wright was born in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He has an MA degree in political science and was a career state employee. He joined the Mutual UFO Network in 1978, was Michigan State Director from 1980 to 85, International Board of Directors member 85 to 87, Deputy Director for U.S.-Canada Investigations from 87 to 92, Director of the Abduction Transcript Project from 92 to 97, Deputy Director from 97 to 2000, and Symposium Speaker in the years 1995, 1997, and 2003. Wright is also the author of the CIA UFO Papers, a chronological collection of UFO-related CIA documents spanning from 1949 to 2000. Tonight, Dan will speak on the Great Questions project that he recently wrapped up. For this project, he wrote to well over 100 MUFON members with an MS, PhD, JD, MD, or DD to solicit essays, requesting to please respond to no more than 5 questions from a set of 25 that, from his perspective, after 40 personal years in the UFO field, are not resolved to the satisfaction of most or all investigators and researchers of the aerial phenomena puzzle. Tonight, Dan shares with us many of the great answers he received to several of these great questions. At the end of his presentation, you will be free to ask him questions yourself. And so let us please welcome home to Michigan, Dan Wright. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. You said part of what my intro was going to be, that after 40 years in this peculiar business, I was ruminating over the course of a weekend or so on what I didn't know, what I didn't understand after 4 decades in this business. And frankly, few or nobody else in MUFON did either. And I decided at a point there to start recording these, putting these together, seeing if there was anything to go from. So I puzzled together 25 questions that I sure don't know the answers to, but I sent them out originally to about 80, a little over 80 of these people with masters or JDs or doctorate degrees. And it was about 80 that said initially they were interested in responding to 1 or up to 5 of these questions. Actually, in the end, we had about 41 that turned in an essay. The essays could be anything from a paragraph to, well, in a few cases, went over 40 pages. So I have, and in total, their papers would have run close to or over 1,000 pages. So we couldn't have that. I had to necessarily cut them down, and my career as a researcher with the state of Michigan put me in a good position to cull the best of these papers. So that's what I'm reading tonight. Very brief descriptions of what eventually MUFON will publish, hopefully by the end of this calendar year. And I'm assured that it will be printed and published in the manner of symposium proceedings and then placed in the MUFON store for any member to buy. There isn't a plan at this point, as a number of the contributors were hoping, to go outside MUFON to find another publisher that would turn this, say, into a book. So it is what it is. And with that, I will start reading off these questions and my summaries, my brief summaries of their replies. The first 10 questions are science or technology oriented, before getting into more social and sociological stuff in the later questions. The most popular were questions 19, 20, and 24. 19 has to do with if there was a disclosure, if there were undeniable proof that they're here, like the government is now coming close to saying, what would be the effect on the world's major religions? Question 20, same idea. After disclosure, what would be the effect on cities and societies in general? And 24, in a nutshell, is why are they here? Why are they here yet not making open contact? What do they want with us? So with that, you'll just see me looking down, reading these notes, because I'm not good enough to do this extemporaneously. Question 1, as Einstein put it in his original theories, the fastest thing in the universe is the speed of light. Nothing can go faster than that. And yet we assume that these crafts come from many, say, light years away. Are they spending years and years to get here, or do they have a shortcut? Here are the answers, and again, with each different person responding, and some of them have several responses. I'll just say new voice, so you don't get confused going from one set of remarks to the next. Okay, now question 1 on faster than light travel. The first response, it's impossible. The faster an object travels, the more massive it gets. Plus, the more time slows down. At the speed of light, time stops, and the object is so heavy, it can't go any faster. New voice. Possible, at least at the particle level, due to the quantum entanglement, what Einstein called spooky action at a distance. New voice. Only antimatter could be the fuel. Challenges, overcoming inertia that limits acceleration and avoiding collisions in deep space. New voice. The prohibition against faster than light speed is not an absolute. Electrons in the water surrounding a nuclear reactor exceed it. Hyperdimensional physics can annul space and allow instantaneous interstellar travel. New voice. The speed of light is different in various universes. Multiple quantum universes can occupy the same vacuum of space and still be invisible to each other. And a new voice. Change space-time with a wave causing the fabric of space-time to contract ahead of the craft and expand behind it, akin to a surfer riding an ocean wave. That's the way to go faster than light. And the final voice on this one, UFOs don't travel through anything. They likely generate an electronic cocoon around the ship, bunch up space-time in front, hop across the collapsed area, and then release it. Question 2, interdimensional travel. Is that an alternative to faster than light travel? First voice, results from particle accelerators argue for parallel universes. Interdimensional travel is not supernatural, but the universes must have the same generic dimensions. New voice. Wormhole travel, a shortcut through a higher dimension, would be a form of interdimensional travel. Jacques Vallée claimed it involves parallel universes alongside, but separate from ours. And the final voice here, wormholes would be required and would limit travel to our own universe. Question 3, how can supersonic crafts travel through our atmosphere and not leave a sonic boom? First voice, a negative gravitational field would push the air aside and avoid a shockwave. Second, the UFO is essentially stationary while the air and space-time move around it. The object's surface is not in contact with anything. It's within a force field where there is no friction, thus no boom. New voice. Rocket scientist Herman Oberth said in the 50s, quote, "They are flying by means of artificial fields of gravity. They produce high tension electrical charges in order to push the air out of their path. Question 4. How do structured objects silently levitate without even an apparent power source? First voice. UFO propulsion is the product of manipulated gravity-like fields. The Biefeld-Brown effect, an electrical phenomenon, could be developed for propulsion. US gravity control propulsion research was prompted by analyses of the Roswell vehicle. New voice. It may be possible to produce gravity by manipulating light. A negative gravitational field is the most likely power source. Rotation of the vehicle seems important in modifying gravity. And so many of us would agree that when you see a saucer near the ground, it's rotating. New voice. Noiseless hovering is from a loophole in physics, a repulsive force field. It involves an extension of gravity to 5 dimensions. Question 5. Why are some UFOs enveloped in a plasma, but not others? Plasmas are created by high electrostatic charges in the air, a shock wave absorption property to protect the personnel and the machine from acoustic or electronic shock waves. New voice. A UFO's powerful electromagnetic field may create a plasma corona, accounting for fuzziness in photos and videos. And the final, a UFO's powerful EM field may create a plasma corona, accounting for fuzziness in photos and videos. There was no response. No one took up question 6. Question 7. In extreme acceleration or right angle turns, what would counter inertia? Researchers presume a repulsive gravitational field. A craft equipped with such could stabilize the inertial field. The occupants would feel no effects. They would simply free fall in the same gravitational field that propels the vehicle. And a second voice, gravity-defying turns, accelerations, and decelerations, instantly lethal for humans, are countered by an anti-gravity field enveloping the entire craft. There was nothing for question 8 worthwhile. Question 9, after stalling, how would an auto engine spontaneously restart when the UFO leaves? Now, I'll preface this by saying for years, I understood that a UFO interrupts the alternator in a car. But when the UFO leaves, the car doesn't restart, you have to start it. But there's something else going on here with more modern vehicles. Question 10. Why are UFOs rarely, if ever, seen during stormy conditions? Aliens learned a lesson at Roswell and the attendant severe electrical storm that occurred there that day. The charged plasma surrounded hull attracted storm-related lightning. Smallish disks employ powerful and exotic EM propulsion systems. Larger UFOs have a greater compensating system. Enough for the scientific and technical ones. Are USO unidentified submerged objects of particular significance? Yes, for privacy and protection. Being on an ocean floor protects the alien base from acknowledgement. Great depths would be critical to maintain a populated base unmolested by humans or potentially other alien species. New voice. Negative gravitational field propulsion would render movement in a dense water environment easy. Remaining out of reach and sight by humans makes eminent good sense. And new voice, last one. In 1963, the US Navy recorded sonar returns of an object at 20,000 feet below the surface, traveling at 150 knots. Our fastest submarines managed 8,200 feet and 45 knots. In April of 2013, infrared video captured an unknown entering and leaving the ocean's surface near Puerto Rico, transitioning into and out of the water smoothly. Overall, alien behaviors presumably involve avoiding the obvious appearance of interference in human affairs. Ocean floors are the logical choice for their bases. Nothing for question 12 worthwhile. Question 13. The classic gray displays multiple human-like features. You got the big eyes, at least a couple of nostrils, if not a bridge of a nose, a slit for a mouth, holes in the side of the head, if not vestigial ears. First response, these are worker bees for the tall grays, tall whites, reptilians, or others. They use less physical space and require no food or fluids. They are lab-created biological robots. The humanoid form is to be less upsetting to humans. New voice. They might derive from humanity's future. In the December 1980 incident in England that we know as Bentwaters or the Forest, US Air Force personnel came upon a small pyramidal landed object. An airman touched it and received a message. Afterward, he said, "They are time travelers. They are us." Time travel is no more bizarre than parallel universes. And the final voice, Gray's features compared to ours now, that would take millions of years of evolution, not thousands. There was nothing important for question 14. Question 15, what explains entity to human communication? Proto-lingual telepathy or something else? Real mind-to-mind exchanges, true telepathy, differ from the more common alien mind control and imprinting of thoughts or images. We must deal with species who aim to control less advanced species such as us. New voice. People have reported receiving synthetic thinking, packets or networks of meanings without specific language. Telepathy does not use a language of worded thoughts. Rather, it conveys sensations, physiological reactions, emotions, images. New voice in the last one. The 1963 Hills case is instructive. While still driving, Barney was told, "You will be caught." On board, Betty had a short telepathic exchange with the leader of the group. Question 18. Why haven't entities been observed eating or drinking? First voice. Beings developed for long journeys have a lessened or no need for nutrients. Likely, the entity's physiology has been modified to minimize the need for food and water. Next voice. The absence of witnessed eating or drinking is not proof that none takes place. Perhaps it has no such need for internal nutrients before exploring, or before expiring, Further, it may be trans-dimensional, a 3D projection into our universe. New voice. Entities are biologically more efficient with far fewer intake requirements. They may metabolize energy differently, as with photosynthesis or through the skin. And in one case that I covered way back when, an entity was seen dipping his forearm and elbow into a tank of some kind of clear liquid, and the person took that to be nutrition. Entities are biologically more efficient with far fewer intake requirements. They may metabolize energy differently, as with photosynthesis or through the skin. They are engineered beings with a built-in energy source. The entities may have a spiritual energy, quote unquote. Open questions: is biological life ubiquitous? Are they us in some even past or future scenario? Are they from a parallel universe? Are physical similarities contrived? Okay, we get into the lengthy ones now, the most popular among the essayists. Question 19. How would undeniable recognition of ETs affect Christianity, Judaism, Islam? First voice, Shiite Muslims are looking for the 12th Imam and would be overwhelmed by an alien revelation. Christian, Jewish, Hindu, and Buddhist leaders have openly discussed possible life on other worlds. People can embrace both science and their convictions. Second voice. The Quran generally supports the idea that spiritual beings exist on other planets. Judaism is inclined toward a belief in life on other worlds. The Jewish Talmud and Kabbalah assert a potentially infinite number of inhabited worlds. A prominent rabbi stated that life on other planets would only reflect God's greatness. Next voice. Roman Catholics have had the most prominent discourse pondering whether aliens would be subject to original sin, among other things. Thomas Aquinas argued for the existence of other worlds. Friar Giordano Bruno wrote of imagining an infinite number of Earth-like worlds, and I believe he was put to death for his views. Pope Francis says he does not restrict souls to humans. Baptists and other conservative Christians, however, profess a specific belief that the earth is the center of God's universe, that science is wrong about evolution. The Bible has no passages, moreover, suggesting intelligent life elsewhere, and science has failed to produce any hard evidence of extraterrestrial life. Taken together, just under half of the practicing Christian faithful believe aliens exist. Discovery of intelligences elsewhere will cause little change in global theology. New voice. If you were to learn that ETs exist, that they parted the Red Sea, raised Jesus from the dead, how would that affect your beliefs? Not much will happen in Christian theology without undeniable recognition of ETs. Liberal Protestantism has no interest in connecting UFOs and the Bible. It has given up believing anything is or was supernatural. Conservatives have mainly taken the view that if ETs are real, they are either demonic or fallen angels. We should view UFOs as a sign of hope, the presence of God's angels. That, by the way, was from Reverend Barry Downing. New Voice. Following disclosure of an otherworldly presence, religions will likely feign superior knowledge to give the impression that they knew all along. New Voice. Arguably, one world religion susceptible to crisis after disclosure will be Christianity. What about, quote, his only begotten son, unquote? To Hindus, God and divinities take many forms. New Voice. The idea of humanity as the pinnacle of creation, that we are in God's image, would get a rude shock. Would the acceptance of ETs make believers feel insignificant or question their faith? New Voice. To fervent conservative Christians, ET existence would make a mockery of the reason Christ came to earth, to die for our sins, for our redemption. To the contrary, the Vatican Observatory Director, Father Jose Funes, has said, quote, brother extraterrestrials pose no problem for Catholic theology, unquote. We cannot put limits on the creative freedom of God, he continued. Isaiah 45 said, Hashem, creator of the heavens, fashioned other worlds to be inhabited. New Voice, and the last one. Religious groups with rigid worldviews might attempt to stop any release of information concerning an alien presence. Roman Catholics, Mormons, and Muslims already accept their existence. Jews may have less of a religious crisis in the Talmud. God is thought to travel to over 18,000 worlds. The end of 19. Question 20. What short and long-term impacts would societies have to endure after ET disclosure? It could cause drastic changes to technologies. Full disclosure would provoke distrust of elected and military officials. There are no reports of aliens assisting humans in disaster, no reports of them showing any empathy in any situation. Second, telecommunications would be overloaded. An imperative would be to avoid misunderstandings initially. A run on banks is inevitable. Stop all stock trading to avoid sell-offs. Survival gear and bunkers, one-way tickets to a safe refuge for the well-off are expected. New insurance policies will cover alien attacks. Some governments will add a tax to cover the costs of alien surveillance. Earth's calendars might be changed from CE or AD to AA after arrival. New Voice. Excitement would accrue among younger people as to alien technologies. Keeping the lid tight has been justified in the argument that, quote, the people were not ready. New Voice. If they were a union of harmonized, advanced worlds, their influence would result in fewer wars here and conflicts of any sort. Scientific or religious groups attached to rigid worldviews might attempt to stop any release of information concerning an alien presence. New voice. Groups with vested financial, economic, or political interests might fight to silence any revelation. We have a suite of custodian species that have deemed it against their interest and dominance to reveal their presence. New voice. In the Nimitz incident, that was on a US Navy aircraft carrier, and fighter planes from there that tracked, and you've seen these on videos more than once, tracked one in particular until it gained great speed and outpaced them. In the Nimitz incident, ET displayed technical superiority, but also restraint, patience. New voice. Undeniable ET presence will begin to change mankind's self-perception, that all humans are, after all, Homo sapiens, one pretty much like the other. The long-term effect will be a change in our motivation. Peace will come in stages. New voice. Stock markets abhor risk and uncertainty. An announcement would have to be carefully planned so as not to cause a catastrophic sell-off and/or public panic. The 1938 Orson Welles radio drama, after all, caused widespread unrest. I remember my father saying it was the talk of the town for the next 24 hours. New voice. Short-term tech consequences would result with, quote, zero-point energy, that is, electrical energy at little or no cost. The existing energy infrastructure would be at risk of collapsing. New voice. Those who believe humans are special in the universe will be forced to consider that we are not special at all. What if humans are considered a lower life form? Would we make aliens the new outgroup and unite as a species? Many would assume aliens are either preparing an invasion or emigrating to Earth. Would they be treated under our own laws? And how would those laws be affected? New voice. Tribes of like-minded will form. Some like-minded humans will form. Some will insist on designated alien-free areas with ordinary human customs and practices. Choice on where to live will be a key factor. New voice. Most people would likely panic. Chaos everywhere, while others would find a deep sense of peace. And the final voice. Serious consequences could result if what they reveal about our world and the universe differs from our knowledge. An ET version of history not supportive of our texts could shake the foundation of our beliefs. Perhaps the concept of money and wealth will be challenged. An open ET presence might well contribute to a global human identity as a species, rather than as divided along racial or socioeconomic or other lines. If a historic link between humans and aliens is discovered or established, results are unpredictable. Question 22. What are some best practices to avoid confabulation in hypnotic regressions? First voice. Foremost, have a well-trained, unbiased therapist available. One must guide the person with open-ended questions. The therapist should be trained in trauma therapy to avoid unconsciously created memories. Avoid having the subject repeatedly verbalize the details of an experience, the threat being filling in the blanks with information learned after the event. Instruct the subject to suppress any recall details gathered between sessions. New voice. Assess for neurological or psychiatric conditions prior to regression. PTSD and even schizophrenia increase the likelihood of false memories. The hypnotist should be well trained in hypnotherapy and regression. He or she should know as few details as possible about the case. Ensure the client's consent that he or she is comfortable with the session and knows the risks. Ideally, have only the hypnotist and client in the room. Videotape the session. When in trance, clients must remain connected to and aware of being safely in the present. If he or she starts to relive the experience, have an escape plan to get out of the scene. Ask questions at a relaxed pace, easily understood, open-ended. Allow, "I don't know," as a response. Do not discount whatever the client professes. Afterward, attempt to verify particulars. New voice. In a deep hypnotic state, the person is still conscious, but feels more like in a dream, the subconscious exposed, as if observing his or her body and surroundings in a removed and remote third-person condition. The hypnotist must understand memory recall and know how to probe the subconscious. Skipping to question 24. Are non-human intelligences here to issue some warning, to witness or prevent a conflagration, to witness human advancement, to incorporate humanity into a broader spectrum of civilizations? Or are there other reasons? First voice. Periodic alien surveillance of facilities where nuclear weapons materials have been manufactured, stored, or deployed over 75 years are well documented. Conclusion, their most aggressive action would probably be to stop a nuclear war. Those who believe humans are special in the universe will be forced to consider that we are not special at all. New voice. As to human advancement, we can only show crafts such as rockets, nuclear projects, and technical knowledge advancements. If they're here to warn us, it's been ineffective. Are we to be incorporated into some larger realm? They have a strong interest collectively in human reproduction and following genealogies. This point alone is worth a major study and could provide insights to their real motivations. New voice. Many CE4 abduction experiencers claim the entities are here to help mankind. To date, there exists no bona fide photo of aliens or other incontrovertible proof of alien contact. Evidence is anecdotal only, after the fact witness testimony. Those are wildly divergent. Some experiencers believe their abductions occur in some altered state of consciousness, while others firmly believe they are victims of physical kidnappings. New voice. Different species and rogue groups have different ethics and claims. Those here have a crucial interest in biology and genetics, cattle mutilations, and crossbreeding suggest hybrid genetic programs, for which alien species here seem to have a crucial interest. New voice. We don't know what we don't know. The worst case scenario would be the absence of a beyond us federation. In a chaotic struggle among spacefaring civilizations, anything could be happening, subduing or destroying less developed worlds, or plundering their resources. Our apparent custodian species shows a grave disrespect and total lack of understanding of our human values and aspirations. They inflict pain and show no sensitivity to it. The overlords seem to be evolved from non-human phylums, insectoid or reptilian, and are greatly concerned with human sexuality, while seemingly unconcerned with the destruction of our own environment. They do not care about Earth's future. New voice. The chaos of our increasingly interdependent world is preparing the way for humanity's coming of age, the last and highest stage in the evolution of man's collective life on this planet. The emergence of a world community, world citizenship, civilization, and culture must be synchronized. It is this process that ETs have come to witness. When all human beings are one and at peace, it will probably be safe for ET to openly make contact. ET may be waiting for us as a species to acquire and manifest spiritual, intellectual, and/or moral qualities. Perhaps they don't intervene because there are no shortcuts, that the lessons in coming of age are gained only through experience. New voice. What we have experienced on our military bases has been a consistent warning, more than subtle hints that they control what we are doing, not us. ETs have tested their ability to shut down and disable nuclear weapons and launch facilities. My sense is that there is a super federation that has been observing this planet for a very long time, with the anticipation that at some point in the future, after the disclosure, Earth will join this group. New voice. ET is proving harmless mostly, other than some ghastly reports from terrified experiencers. The ET intrusion appears benign. Education is ongoing. Geometry theorems derived from ET crop circles were deemed an improbable synchronicity. Communication seems important. Messaging is frequent and significant. What do they want? Simply put, to be here, to be with us. ET perhaps covets human capacity for emotion, rage, passion, tenderness, fear. They need us, no doubt. What do we offer? And the final voice here. During World War II, Foo Fighters observed us in aerial combat. After the first atomic bomb test at White Sands, UFOs began appearing around missile installations, weapons storage facilities, and power stations. I had a close encounter investigative case around the power plant up around Midland. It was built on the same plan as 3 Mile Island. them to finally colonize Earth. Question 25. Can the UFO subject be fairly characterized as paranormal? Paranormal means simply something is beyond the range of current scientific understanding. It has erroneously come to mean beyond scientific explanation. UFOs are a real phenomenon. It is curious that there are so many legitimate yet varied types of sightings. On the notion of a single underlying source, none have ever wanted to make open contact with us. Why wouldn't a civilization want to make it easy for, say, SETI to have found them by now? New voice. We are scientifically studying the UFO topic at a governmental and global level. It is recognized as a serious concern by many nations. Public engagement has far exceeded that of any paranormal topic such as ghosts and spirits. We should consider breaking from its cute or quirky aspects, re-looking at our branding and marketing. We need to control the narrative away from what is considered a sideshow, with meaningful curriculum in the alien and UFO topics, and to build our ties with reputable colleges. New voice. In the 1970s, a psychological factor in the UFO phenomenon emerged, that UFOs could have a psychic origin, even parapsychological or paranormal. That hypothesis seeped into the minds of some ufologists. Carl Jung suggested an archetypal psychic form projected by the collective unconscious of humanity. Others declared the entire subject a myth, folklore, ignoring cases with ground traces, photos, and thorough investigation. Jacques Vallée spoke of a possible psychic component. John Keel devised the notions of ultra-terrestrials and cosmic poltergeists, who did not come from space, but instead from some undefined source. Vallée and Keel allowed the psychosocial thesis to flourish, to deny any substance to UFOs. In 2015, some French ufologists developed a thesis based on consciousness to explain UFOs, psychic projections. Consciousness was not seriously addressed by them, only designated as a possible provider in the neo-Jungian vein, seasoned with a motley sauce. New voice. Ignoring thousands of instances of physical evidence and many, many thousands of observations by average people over centuries, classifying it all as paranormal is just wrong. The human race should not be so quick to dismiss what we do not understand or be falsely led to believe is impossible. UFOs can be studied scientifically. Unlike paranormal phenomena such as clairvoyance, UFO technology may be so advanced as to be beyond identification by laypersons, but it still relies on science and thus is not paranormal. New voice. Present-day physicists are grasping that flying saucers can seemingly betray gravity plus turn on a dime and go from 0 to 4,000 miles per hour in a split second. A distinction must be made between perceptions of normal and paranormal. UFOs are normal. Ghosts, poltergeists, hauntings, and apparitions are paranormal. New voice. This is a lengthy response. Unless the term paranormal started around, or use of the term paranormal started around 1901, but then fell off until World War II in the 19. So researchers must distance themselves from ghosts, goblins, demons, and angels. Derision will weaken the movement toward disclosure. Luis Elizondo, who directed the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, and who is now with the To the Stars Academy, wrote this: "Isn't everything in science paranormal until we eventually perceive it as normal?" The media have not been helpful, offering conflicting and contradictory data, purposeful misinformation, or simply entertainment. Telepathy, ghosts, and UFOs are not just a matter of belief. Their existence is based on experience and evidence. The two main categories of psychic studies are PSI or psi gamma experiences, such as extrasensory perception, and psi kappa, paranormal cognition and psychokinesis. These might be different aspects of a single process. Telepathy, clairvoyance, remote viewing, psychokinesis, psychic healing, and precognition seem to challenge contemporary conceptions of human nature and the psychic world. Scientists and parapsychologists who study psi phenomena or the UFO field take a big risk. Elites who control the funding make sure that those who depart from the party line are punished. Physicist Lawrence Krauss stated, "I do not think it is a coincidence that we have trouble understanding both consciousness and quantum mechanics." He added that physicists have the opinion that all parapsychology research is false. Harvard psychologist John Mack, who worked extensively with abduction experiencers, remarked, quote, "The majority of the scientific community have felt obliged to declare their belief in the non-reality of the phenomenon. In the interest of science, however, abduction experiences should be a matter of investigation rather than belief," unquote. A 2018 survey sought to determine the number of scientists and engineers who had psychic experiences. Fully 94% reported in the affirmative. All truth passes through three stages. First, it is ridiculed. Then it is violently opposed. Finally, it is accepted as self-evident. New voice. The term paranormal is slung around like a dirty mop on the back porch. Aunt Sally always knowing who is calling before she answers the phone is paranormal. If it is not explained and not normal, it is paranormal. Whatever scientists agree is part of the natural world and amenable to study by scientific procedures is normal. UFOs and parapsychological phenomena should be clearly distinguished. Still, many will continue to call UFOs paranormal because, like psychic phenomena, UFOs are unexplained and seem to lie outside the scope of state-supported research. New voice. Wikipedia says the term paranormal has existed in English since at least 1920. As our discoveries, developing technologies, and understanding of the cosmos, physics, chemistry, and brain biology expand, the merge point between paranormal and normal will become our new reality. And the last voice. Lasers and radio would have been considered paranormal in the Middle Ages. It is a vague and specious term. If something can be measured, then it exists in the physical world. Wind and sound are not tangible, but measurable and thus normal. Ball lightning was once considered paranormal. In short, UFOs are normal. The end.
Cool. Thank you so very much, Dan. That was really comprehensive. Based upon the size of the group that we have here, it looks as though if anybody would like to ask a question, we could probably just have you unmute and go ahead and ask a question. If things get a bit messy, then we'll switch back to possibly asking questions in the chat room or having folks raise their hands or something like that. But if anybody has any questions, right now, go ahead and unmute and you can ask.
And don't consider me any kind of expert or even learned individual on any of this. I just took the notes.
Hi, Dan. I got a question for you.
You bet.
Early on, you had a question that no one had attempted to answer. Can you tell us what that question was?
I don't have that list of questions right here. There were three or four that got no interest at all. One was, why are some structured crafts very, what's the word? They're sleek. They have nice flat lines and so forth. And others are bulky and restrained and don't look like they would create a lot of drag. Why are both types here and always have been here? Nobody wanted to take that one on.
Dan, what did you get out of reading these answers? What, given what you expected or what you hoped to accomplish with the list, what was your reaction to what you got back?
Good question. And I haven't given a lot of thought to that. I'm a researcher by nature and trade, and I love to collect different takes on the same subject. I didn't know if I was going to get 4 essays or 400. Turned out to be a lot closer to the latter. Some were flippant, frankly, and not very helpful. Whereas others, oh my God, some produced equations that I can't begin to understand, let alone explain to anyone else. And some of their rhetoric went on and on. There were several that were 30 pages in length. And when you're talking an essay, not a book, that's pretty long. A couple of them actually went over 40 pages. So I was fascinated when each one came in, and there was a nice dribble over the course of, a full year and more. I started this back in 2019. I had finished a book that was out and gone, and I was kind of looking for another project. And that's when I decided, what is it that I don't know at this point? And turned out there was a hell of a lot. So it was fascinating for me as a researcher to take sometimes commentary that went on and reduce that to the core so that I could issue a couple of pages from them that would make the sense that they took 30 pages to give to me. That was that was my incentive and that was my reward, being able to coalesce all of this and come up with a nice, what turned out to be, I think, about a 180-page report.
If you don't mind, before you go, I do have a question I'd like to ask. You've been around for a very long time. You've seen a lot, you've heard a lot. Through the course of your career and through the course of these questions, was there something that really stood out to you? Was there something that sort of shocked you, whether it be the question or the answer that sort of like really stuck out at you?
Mm-hmm. It was on the question 24 of why they're here. More than one person who responded to that one took the line that we are meat to them, that they are interested in our sexuality and manipulating that. They have no interest in preserving the world or even the human species. It's their agenda, not ours. That it was disturbing, I guess, more than shocking to me to see that more than one of them, about 3 or 4 of them, took that line that we're just laboratory rats to these folks. You know, that line has gone way back anyway, but these people were really into it. They have no sympathy for us. They don't care if we're going to perish or continue. This is their agenda, not ours. That was what struck me most deeply.
So this is my question, and I know that there's a lot of talk about everybody, you know, they're going to, you know, the disclosure's going to come out and all this and that. And, you know, I emailed Linda Moulton Howell a while back. I have a lot of respect for her as a journalist and as, you know, a reporter. And she said to me that the reason they are afraid of disclosure is that it's going to basically change the course of science and basically take all the science that we know and like throw it out the window. So if that's the case, and everyone's been holding off on doing that, why are they now trying to push it if they know what the ramifications of disclosure is going to be?
Another good question. And my take on what the government announced here a couple of months back was not some great revelation. It was kind of kicking the can down the road. They admitted the least they possibly could. We don't know what they are, but yeah, they're real. That rather than trying to explain where they come from, what they are and what form they are, what they've done to us or for us, they didn't get into any of that. It's just, yeah, there's some substance to some of it, and we'll get back to you later.
Thank you so much. I just want to say, it was, you know, I haven't heard from, you know, too much about you, but what I've heard, I'm very impressed with. Thank you for doing such a great job in the questions and everything you've done over the course. It's just been amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. And I wanted to say to all of you that were it not for the fact that for 5 months a year you have to hibernate inside, I would still be in Michigan. I never skied or skated or snowmobiled or did anything to make peace with the weather. And I finally gave up and moved to Georgia.
That's great. Cool. Well, thanks again, Dan.